I don't know how long it's been. I've been with the Krieg engineers, and we have been digging underground for 2 weeks. I don't even know what the sun looks like anymore. What is that? What do you mean, Kriegsman? What do you mean you love that Commissar as much as a straight man can love another man? It's the coat, isn't it? What a fine day to be in the trenches, Kurt. I know, this is a great coat. It fights against all the elements. Ah, thanks, Commissar. I didn't know all I had to do was ask you for one. Whew, that almost got scary. I almost had to ask a favor from the Blood Ravens. Now let's paint the guy she tells you not to worry about. Step 1. You want to base the coat, the hat, the gloves, and the legs and feet all in Abaddon black. Now you want to make sure it doesn't go on too thick, so make sure you water down your paint just slightly. And this mini is primed in Mechanicus Standard Gray Rattle Can if you are wondering. Step 2. We're gonna go straight into painting the leather because I really want to. So we're gonna go start off with Doom Bull Brown. Now you're going to use a slightly medium to a larger brush, and you want to get all of that excess paint off first using a paper towel. And you're going to almost stipple dry brush it on your mini. And we're gonna do this all over the trench coat. We're just gonna stipple it in on areas that are protruding. I'm just gonna stipple, 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 and you can always bring highlights out more on sharper areas of the coat. This is gonna help leave this slight brown hue that's on that black coat. Now to really make this coat stand out, we're gonna use Scrag Brown. Now I did try a couple of different browns and this one ended up looking the best. What you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna use a smaller brush and you wanna water it down just slightly until it becomes an ink-like substance. Unless you're using a wet palette, then you don't really need to do that. And you're just gonna use that small brush and you're going to tap it along the edges. You don't want it to be complete, and this is gonna make those creases look sharp and really make that leather stand out. So along those sharp creases, you're just gonna stipple it in or just tap it in, and you don't wanna do a complete line. Now I did that along a lot of the edges and the sharp points on the coat. Now where those areas are dark and we kind of left and it's more of that Abaddon black in there, I went ahead and I made some light scratches throughout the leather. Now on that bottom half of the Kriegsman, we're gonna base that in Mechanicus Standard Gray. Now Mechanicus Standard Gray has been changing over time. So you just wanna make sure that it's like a medium gray, a medium gray. Once you do that, you're gonna want to base the actual gas mask itself. Now I based mine in Administratum Gray, which is like this very light gray. And you want to make sure that it's watered down just slightly so that you do over the entire thing and it glazes on all nice and easy. But if you want to make it look more like the Siege of Vraks book cover art, then I would base it in Ushabti Bone. Once you're all done with that, you're gonna go get Corn Red. Now that sash on the bottom of the Kriegsman that's along his waist, we're gonna base that in Corn Red. Now we're also gonna do it along the coat. Right here, we're gonna base it in Corn Red as well. we're gonna use Iron Warriors to base the metal. Now this includes that connector piece to the hose on the gas mask. You can also do the eyes, or if you're gonna do a red glow, then you don't have to. Then for the hat, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do this symbol in metal as well. I know a lot of people are doing gold, but on the Siege of Vraks book cover art, it's actually in metal. It's just kind of slightly different. So I decided to do the whole thing all in metal as well. Now for the saber on the back, I wanted it to be metal with a gold handle, and that's exactly what I did, or a gold guard. Now, if you want to do it like GW, then I would base it in corn red and just follow the steps that we're going to do for the red part on the coat. Now it's time to paint gold. We're gonna use a bright gold or just a Vallejo gold like I am using. And you're gonna wanna paint all of those buttons and all that decoration in the gold. Make sure that you're kind of working it in there and you're not just getting it all over the coat, because it is kind of a smaller detail on there. Now I also painted those little skull buttons on the side of the coat, which I absolutely love doing. And then right here on the Commissar hat itself, I decided to paint it gold. Now mine's black, but I decided to paint this one gold, and it's really gonna pop on the hat, and I really like how it turned it out. Now for the decoration on the shoulders, which I believe it's called an epaulette, you want to paint that in gold as well. Now for those little things dangling off, just use your side of your brush to hit those areas all in. Now on the sheath itself for the sword, I went ahead and did that end piece and the beginning piece in the gold, as well as the handguard, because of course the handguard has to be gold. Now for the sash on the front, this is along the waist, what you're gonna wanna do is, I decided to do all of the edges in gold, and this is the same for the Commissar that's seen in the Siege of Vraks. So I went ahead, got my brush, used the side of it, and I just, at an angle, got all of that gold along the side of it. Just make sure that it's angled, and it's gonna be fairly easy to get those edges with that gold. Now it is time to wash everything but the coat in Agarth's Earthshade, or just a brown wash. You're going to want to just use a slightly smaller brush so that you don't get it on the coat. And if it is too thick in an area with that wash, just get a dry brush and just soak up some of it. And if you do end up getting some on the coat, it's really not that big of a deal because the coat was already a black. To start off highlights, we're gonna use Mephiston Red. Now you're gonna want to water this down just slightly until it's an ink-like substance. You're gonna get a small pointy fine brush, and you're gonna do little horizontal lines along the protruding areas. Now it doesn't need to be like perfect, but you just want to do little line motion going along those protruding areas. And this is gonna help it look like it has texture and it's not flat. And this is gonna look really good on the sash. Now for the coat itself, we're gonna wanna highlight the protruding areas and along some of the edges. Now this, we're not doing the horizontal lines. We kind of do want this to blend in a little bit nicer, and you can do that by just watering down your mix just slightly. But what if you want even brighter highlights? And what we're gonna do for that is we're gonna mix equal parts Ushabti Bone with Mephiston Red. We don't wanna use a white because then it's gonna end up looking like a light pink, and that's not what we want. The Ushabti is gonna help dull it down. And we're gonna do the exact same thing. We're just gonna do little horizontal lines along the protruding areas on the sash, and this is gonna really help it pop out. For the leather, the red leather on the coat, you're just gonna want to highlight little bits of the area. You don't wanna do as much as you did in that Mephiston Red. You're just gonna wanna do along some of those sharp edges, and I did it along the inside of the coat along that red, and a little bit along the edges on the top. We are now going to use Dawnstone Gray. Now, where that area that we previously painted in Mechanical Standard Gray along that bottom half of the Kriegsman, we're going to use Dawnstone. Now, I used a medium-sized brush. I got some of the excess paint off. You can just use the side of your plate, or just use a little bit of a paper towel, and you're just going to stipple it in. Now, I just did it along some of the ridges, and then I just focused a little bit more stippling along the edge. I like the texture look for this, and I don't like using the lines like we did for the sash, because then it'll just be too much. So the stippling is going to look good, and it's going to help bring texture to that little area as well. Now it is time to make this part of the hat shiny. So we're going to start off with administratum gray, which is like a very light gray. Now, as you can see, if I do this, there's a very bright light here, and then it slowly fades out. So what we're going to do with the administratum gray is that we're going to do a bright light right here, a bright line, and then we're just going to use the edge of our brush to hit this entire edging with that administratum gray. And it's going to look weird for now, but we're going to go move over to dawnstone gray. Now, where it's bright, as you can see, it fades off just a little bit along the side, but it's still fairly bright. And that's what we're gonna do with that dawnstone gray. We're just gonna blend it along the side next to that light gray, and we're gonna blend all the way towards the edge. But it's still just gonna look kind of funky. So we're gonna move over to Eschen gray, which is like a dark gray. And with that, we're gonna blend in those edges all the way to the end, and I even left some of the black along the side. So most of the cap is actually just a dark gray mixed in with some lights, but because we left some dark, it looks like it's a shiny black top. For highlights on the gas mask itself, we're going to use administratum gray. Make sure that you slightly water this down with some water. And what you're gonna do is that you're just gonna hit those highlighting areas. Now, I just stay away from the sunken cheeks because I like what the wash did, making it darker and a little bit more sunken in. So I highlight along the cheeks, along the jaw, all the way to the gas mask, kind of towards that hose area. I even did a little highlight around the cheekbones in between the eyes. For highlights on the gold, instead of using pure silver like Stormhose silver, we're going to use Stormhose silver mixed in with some gold. Now, I did about equal parts, and as you can see in the mixture and on my hand, it's almost like a very, very bright gold or a silver with just a slight hue to it. That is the gold, and this is going to help it not look so harsh with that bright silver. It's going to look all nice and neat. You want to use this sparingly. You want to do it along some of the buttons, along some of the areas where the sun would hit it most. Like on the sheath itself, I just tapped it along some of the edges. You want to keep some of that dark gold still there so that those bright highlights really pop out. Now, for the decorations along the shoulder, as you can see for those little things dangling down, I just got my side of my brush and I did it along the tips, just making those tips bright. And you're also going to want to do that along the top as well. Now for the hat, I really made it bright right here because the sun would hit it and it's really going to pop out when you look at that mini. For highlights on the metal, we're going to use Stormhose silver. We are just going to want to highlight all of those metal bits along the hat in it, and it's really going to help it pop out. You really want to keep a lot of those creases and indentions so that these metal bits really pop. But if you do end up getting it into all those little mixtures and everything just ends up being bright, you could always get a slightly watered down contrast black Templar or just some Nolan oil. Get your brush, a small brush, and just put it in some of those edges, and it's just gonna fill in, getting into those creases, still leaving some of those brighter areas in it, and that's gonna help you if you do make that mistake. Now, I did highlight that sheath in metal, so we're gonna go to that now, and we're just gonna do the edges. I really like the dark metal on there, so I just focus on edges and scratches. Remember, it's heresy not to like and subscribe to this video. And if you want even more content, check out my gaming channel at Nuka, Kitten Gaming. I also painted the Death Rider, if you haven't seen that yet, which is the Kriegsman on a horse. Or a weird looking dog. Go check out that video too.